Hi, Evelyn.
Hola, hi Michelle, how are you?
Hola, ¿qué tal?
Bien, bien, ¿y tú?
Hello, this is Anna, but the interpreter. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Evelyn, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hi.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yay, awesome.
Who is the other CRLN person? Is that you, Lupe?
Yes, that is me. Hello, everyone.
I'm so glad. I'm gonna rename you really quick. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ah, Okay. Annabelle, I'm assuming you are connected because I see you here.
Yes, and we check audio. I think we're good.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Annabelle is our interpreter from Spanish to English. Um, and so thank you for the support. Hi, Michelle. It's good to see you.
Hi, good to see you too.
Okay. All right, we're just waiting for a couple folks. I'm going to make you co-host, Lupe. Uh, Wait, no, you are already co-host. Good.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm already co-host.
Great. Okay, yeah, because you logged in with CRLN.
Yeah.
Great, great, great. Okay. Um, the live stream on YouTube is on, even though we haven't started the webinar. That's weird.
Would you like me to start it?
Well, no, no, no. We're gonna start at 4. We
Yeah.
gotta go over some stuff. Oh, let me send you the program. Sorry. You got a version of it. Let me send you the final version. Um, Anybody else have any thoughts and questions? I'm ready. I'm excited. Michelle, did you see my message about some words about you?
I just saw it.
It's
Sorry.
okay. It's okay. Can you reply? Do you think you can reply there?
Sure. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I haven't done something like this in a really long time. So, Lupe, thank you so much for the help. So, Lupe was working on a special project with us at CRLN, supporting recently arrived migrants. And so, but the project ended, and we're happy that she can help us today.
Thank you, Lupe. Nice to meet you.
Nice
She's
to
a
meet you all.
Southsider too. Lupe's a Southsider too,
Oh,
like
nice.
you, Evelyn.
Yes,
Yay.
I grew up in Little Village.
Oh, same. Pilsen Little Village. That's so cool.
Okay, we're waiting for Sarah was gonna join, right, Michelle?
I
Yeah, she
think
said
so, yeah.
she
I'm not
mentioned.
sure. Mhm.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm not sure if she was gonna join the prep meeting or not, but yeah, she was gonna join to help with the
Did
chat.
she give you I mean, do you have, I don't know who from these were made, but she said she was get some slides about the call for action, or do you have those?
I have the text, yeah, for the call to
Okay.
action. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds great. Did you want to project it at some point?
Yeah. I think maybe just put it in the chat, but I have some slides about NISWA that I can project during my section.
Okay, that's great. That'd be great at the when we're doing the 3-point call to action, which is great.
Just waiting on Josue too, I think. May message him real
Yeah,
quick.
if you can, that'd be great. Thank you.
Oh, there he is. Oh, that's good.
Josue.
Hi.
Okay. But our special guest, Jose Silvio. No, I'm still waiting on Jose Silvio. Anabel, did you have any questions about the context? I don't know if Gabriela was able to send you some information. I didn't, I'm sorry, about the genocide trial or the context of Guatemala. She said you have general background on all this stuff, but I just wanted to see if you had any questions.
Uh,
We have experts here right
okay.
now.
I don't think so. I am a little familiar with some of the history.
Okay.
I'm a big Rugumeta Menchú fan. So, matter of fact,
Oh,
I saw her when she came to Aurora.
Oh, wow.
okay.
And I reviewed some. I couldn't take a picture with her. I was so sad. And it was
Oh,
funny. It was funny because it was in my local school in East Aurora, and then school interpreter was not keeping up with her. And then one of my friends like, "Go for it, go for it." And I was so afraid. I was like, "No, this is an honor. I'm not ready. I'm not ready." So it's a regret because I couldn't interpret it for her. But
oh, okay. Oh,
so I
I'm glad.
yeah. So I did review some of I did go online and review some of the trial and the basis of it. So I think I'm okay. I
Okay,
think I'm
that
okay.
sounds great. No, and yes, no, Gabriela mentioned that, and you were at the event with when our friends from Cuba were here, right?
Yes, I was.
Great. So
Yeah.
yes, thank you so much.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
yeah. Because I was at when the event finished, I didn't get a chance to talk, but thank you again for that.
Of course.
Yeah, just different Spanish, Caribbean Spanish and now Central American Spanish. It's all very different.
It's very different. Yeah, it's definitely very different. So I feel more confident with the South American, Central American Spanish than I do with the Caribbean because, I get to interpret for Puerto Ricans and Dominican Republic, and sometimes it's harder for me because they speak fast and it's like
Yeah,
Spanglish and all this stuff. So I feel a little bit confident, I think, for this one.
I think it'll be great. Yeah,
Thank
thank you so
you.
much.
Of course.
Michelle, I didn't ask you what language are you going to speak in today?
Oh, I assumed English because yeah, I assume
I mean,
yeah, since
I
she's in
always ask.
Chicago.
I always ask. Yeah, Michelle's also has a connection with Chicago. So, yeah.
Yeah, I lived there, Edgewater for a little bit.
Okay, yeah. And so, Jose, can you hear us? How are you doing?
Hey y'all. Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm just there's a bee in my apartment, so I'm trying to catch it and take it outside before we start. But I can hear y'all. I'm following along.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
okay.
A bee.
Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
very sniffly, so I'm gonna find some tissues. I'll be back to you.
Yeah.
Okay, of course.
Jonathan, should we speak in English or in Spanish or?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to go over when everybody was here, but I guess we can start with that quiet conversation about with Anabel. Because Jose Silvio, I don't know how many, I mean, Jose Silvio's coming, we know, but he also mentioned there was other people coming, and we didn't really get the details whether they're going to be in the same room with him or in another computer. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody spoke in the language that they're most familiar with. I'm gonna speak in Spanish and say sorry, I'm gonna speak in English and maybe say a couple things in Spanish. Um, but from my experience, it's better for the interpreter for Anabel if the people just stay with one language, right, Anabel?
Correct.
So yeah, just what language you want to speak in is more the question, I believe.
Oh, I guess I'll stay in English then. Yeah.
Okay, great.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna get some water for the
Okay,
speaking.
thank you. Sounds good. Okay, I'm gonna send you the YouTube live stream. Because we were, the Facebook wasn't working. Facebook Live, for some reason, I don't, maybe it's me, but what we want to do is post it a few minutes before 4 o'clock, so people can just click and go straight to the link on our Facebook page. Let me know if you can see it, because I'm looking at it, but it feels like it's in a loop. I don't know.
Okay. Give me a quick second.
Yes, thank you.
I can send it. Yep.
It says that we're live, but I only see Michelle and I. It should be more than one person.
I know I joined as panelist. I don't know if that's a reason.
No, everybody who's in our screen right now is a panelist. Yeah. Oh, ahí está Sara. Sara's here.
Hola,
Hola, Sara, ¿cómo estás?
bien.
Sí, qué bien, qué bien. Es sábado. Or maybe it's just slow because I'm watching the live stream right now y Evelyn acaba de llegar. So maybe it's just a couple minutes delayed.
Or maybe it's like whoever has their screen because we all have our
You're
videos
right
up.
about that. You're totally right about that. I think you're 100% right. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Let me turn off my screen then. See what happens.
Yeah, I was able to see it.
Yeah, Evelyn came on. You're right. Okay. Jose, did you get the B? Yeah, the screen. It's the whoever has the screen on. You're right. Okay.
You didn't get taken out by the bee, Jose.
No, there's two though.
Two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have all the windows open and the doors open?
Yeah, the door was open and my mesh stayed open. I usually
Oh,
have a little protector.
okay.
I see one. I'm gonna get one right now though.
Okay. Don't get stung a couple minutes before you gotta be on live. So
Question. So once I'm assigned my channel by interpreting channel,
Mhm.
I might have to switch back and forth between the languages then, correct? Because you guys are gonna speak into English, so then I have to do Spanish for whoever's in the Spanish channel and then switch over, correct?
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to go over, but we're waiting for our compañero Jose Silvio.
Okay.
But we can get started on that right now. So everybody who's here right now is bilingual. But everybody's gonna speak in English. Um and I'm not gonna say too much in Spanish, even though I'm always doing that in Spanglish and I
Mhm.
like it, but um just because it's easier for interpretation. But Jose Silvio will be speaking only in Spanish.
Okay.
And so, and would it be better? Yes, Michelle, thank you. Um, would it be better if you gave the instructions of how to do the interpretation on Zoom? Because I think you might be better at explaining people how to do that. Annabelle, what do you think?
Yes, I can do it. I can actually post it also on the chat. That's what I usually do. And
Okay,
because once
great.
you give me the channel, I won't be able to really communicate with everybody on the same page because only, if I'm in the Spanish channel, only Spanish speakers are gonna hear me. If I'm in the English channel, only English speakers are
Yeah.
gonna hear me. So let me post it right now, and then whenever you're ready, I can say the instructions. I can recite them.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. And for the channel, yeah, for the channel is it's just pressing start, right?
I don't see what you see on your end. It usually should say like assign interpretation, and then you pick my email or my name. Sometimes my email comes up, and then
Oops. Yeah, sorry. I assigned you Spanish and I can hear you, but I don't know if anybody else can hear you.
She got cut off from, I think, I'm assuming we all stayed in the default English one. So she got cut off.
Yeah, I can hear you in English too. Yeah. Okay.
I don't hear Annabelle if she's talking because I think yeah.
So maybe we can say if we can hear Annabelle, or I'm in the Spanish channel and I cannot hear Annabelle.
I
Sorry.
can't hear her either.
I'm in the Spanish channel, I can hear you.
Hola, Jonathan.
Hola,
Thank
José
you, Annabelle.
Silvio.
Don José Silvio, buenas tardes, ¿cómo está?
Ahí mira corriendo, pasando en las zonas nubosas, no hay señal.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Ay, ay,
Pero ya
ay.
listo, pero ya
Ya
listos.
está
Sí,
en carro, ¿verdad?
cabal,
Sí, está
pero no hay
bien. Bueno,
problema.
esperamos que no haya mucho movimiento y la señal esté bien.
No, pues me quedé en un lugar en donde hay señal.
Ah, qué bueno. Gracias.
Sí, aquí ya no me muevo hasta que termine la sesión.
Eh, gracias, se lo
Sí,
agradecemos.
listo. ¿Cómo
Sí,
les va?
ahí vamos, ya estamos todas las personas. Don José Silvio, usted es la única persona, ¿verdad? De a la JR que va a participar, solo
Sí,
para
fíjate
confirmar.
que cabal me llamó el Leodoro ahorita que tienen una emergencia. Entonces está un poco enferma su esposa y creo
Ay.
que por ahí anda. No se logra conectar.
No, no,
Y
no,
avisó.
hubiera sido bonito, hubiera sido muy bueno, pero sí, entendemos, gracias.
Sí,
Bueno,
lamentablemente ahorita me está llamando y está en ese caso, entonces no se pudo.
ok, muy bien.
Sí.
Entonces,
Ujú.
tenemos a la compañera Anabel que va a ser su intérprete, la intérprete de hoy. Y ella va a dar indicaciones más adelante, pero am, Anabel, él es don José Silvio y creo que también hay otras personas que no se habían presentado. Si quieren, ya estamos todos y todas. Nos podemos presentar rapidito. ¿Quién empieza? Evelyn, dale tú. You're mute. Están en silencio.
Ah,
Ahí
ok,
está.
hola, buenas tardes. Soy Evelyn. Un placer, estoy aquí desde Chicago. Un placer verlos otra vez.
Gracias. Sara, dale tú, si puedes.
Sí, buenas tardes, Saraswati, de Nizwa, y estoy en la ciudad de Guatemala. Mucho gusto.
Gracias, gracias. ¿Quiere presentarse, don José Silvio?
Gracias, Jonathan. Yo soy José Silvio, estoy en Guatemala ya, que no estaba en Guatemala. Y es un gusto
Sí, ¿verdad?
saludarlos. Soy el representante de la Asociación para la Justicia y Reconciliación, AJR. Gracias.
Muy bien, gracias. Michelle, do you wanna, can you introduce yourself? ¿Puedes presentarte?
Sí. Hola, soy Michelle, soy acompañante internacional con NISCUA y soy en Guatemala.
Sí. Y Lupe, ¿puedes saludarnos?
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Guadalupe Mojica. Estoy aquí acompañando a Jonathan. Gracias por la oportunidad a todos.
Gracias. Y Lupe trabajó con CRLN, pero el proyecto terminó, pero nos sigue apoyando. Gracias, Lupe. Y finalmente, Anabel, que es la intérprete de hoy, y le agradecemos. Bueno, entonces, ella escribió en el chat, pero sí, sí, te escuchamos. Sí, ¿cómo hago eso? Ah, ok, ahora
Ok.
sí.
¿Me puede
¿Escuchan a
escuchar?
Anabel?
¿Sí me escuchan?
Sí, sí, yo la
Sí,
escucho.
Sí.
Ok, voy a dar instrucciones entonces, pero la interpretación también va a estar en la chat, también va a estar en la charla si la ocupan de ahí. Entonces, si están para escoger un canal, ya sea de inglés o español, si están hablando de una computadora, en la parte de abajo, en la parte derecha de abajo de su computadora va a haber un globo y escojan español o Spanish. Si están llamando de un teléfono, iPad o tableta, toquen la pantalla de su teléfono. Van a ver tres puntitos en la parte derecha de abajo que diga más o more y le da clic ahí, de ahí escoja interpretación o interpretation. Después le va a dar a escoger entre español o ahorita no, porque todavía no tengo canal.
Mm.
Ahorita español, le va a decir español o Spanish. Escoja y después ponga la palabra que dice done a finalizar y ya les va a poner ese canal. Esta información también está puesta en la charla. Otra vez, ahorita todavía no, hasta que Jonathan me asigne el canal otra vez.
muchas gracias a Anabel.
Sí, de
¿Tienen
nada,
alguna
mucho gusto.
pregunta o algo más? ¿Algún comentario sobre interpretación? Muy bien, entonces en unos minutos empezamos. Hay algunas personas esperando. Hay dos personas esperando. Y bueno, ustedes pueden ver. Am, entonces, sí. Bueno, te voy a asignar a
Sí.
Anabel. Bien, para escuchar a Anabel pueden cambiarse al español. Yo me voy a quedar en original y ya no voy a poder escuchar a Anabel, porque si no me voy a confundir. Me voy a cambiar al inglés, don José Silvio, pero por ahí está Anabel y va a estar Sara también y Lupe, más que nada, que Lupe nos va a ayudar con cuestiones técnicas y cualquier cosa podemos apoyarnos con ellas. Muy
Deberíamos,
bien.
creo que deberíamos de confirmar que don José Silvio puede escuchar a Anabel en el canal de español, ¿verdad?
Don José Silvio. ¿Qué fue, don José Silvio? Uh-oh. Bueno, si eso sucede durante el foro, vamos a dar unos minutos, pero vamos a seguir y vamos a la próxima persona. Ahí está don José Silvio. Bien. Hola, don José Silvio. ¿Nos escucha bien?
Sí, le escucho, solo que, ¿sabe qué pasó? Quiero meterme al canal.
Sí, como está en el teléfono es un poquito diferente, pero va a decir
Ya la,
interpretación.
sí, ya la tengo.
Ah, ya, muy bien.
Sí, silenciar audio original.
Okay, I'm gonna start this webinar. If it's okay with everyone.
Si yo escucho a Anabel.
Muy bien, estamos. Okay, Michelle and Evelyn, are you all ready?
Yeah, ready.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Jonathan, una consulta.
Claro, sí.
Vamos a interrumpir, digamos, o la interpretación va a ser simultánea para no pausar.
Sí, perdón, don José Silvio, sí es simultánea, entonces eso es lo
Ah,
bueno que usted puede hablar sí, para que sea, para que haya más flujo y que vaya más como, que sea más cómodo para todas y todas las personas. Entonces,
gracias.
sí, entonces usted me va a estar escuchando en inglés y la compañera Anabel va a interpretar, ¿verdad? Pero tal vez diga unas palabras en español, pero sí, para que todo sea, ah, para que haya una fluidez y está más organizado, voy a cambiarme al inglés. Muy bien,
Muy bien.
gracias. Okay, we are live, no? Yes, we are. Okay. Hello, everyone, if you're joining us. We have some folks who've joined us. Welcome. We are gonna wait a few minutes and wait for other folks to join. But if you are familiar with Zoom, for interpretation purposes, you can choose to stay on this channel, or you can choose Spanish interpretation. So welcome, everyone. We also have the chat available if people want to, use the chat for comments and questions. We'll be taking questions at the end.
Hey, Jonathan, Lydia sent in the chat that the Zoom link isn't letting her in. Is she stuck in the waiting room? Or maybe Lupe can check.
Yeah, could you help us look at the folks who are waiting to get in?
Yep.
Thank you.
You can go ahead and check.
Thank you. Yeah, we're starting to see a couple more people come in. Welcome everybody, everyone, todas, todes, todos. Vamos a esperar y empezamos en 1 o 2 minutos. We'll be sorry. We'll be starting in 1 or 2 minutes. It's gonna be hard for me not to speak Spanish and just speak English, but I'll try. Oh, okay. Okay. We'll get started. Welcome everybody. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We have a great conversation for today. Um, my name is Jonathan Gomez. I work at the Chicago Religious Leadership Network on Latin America, CRLN, and we're very glad to have this event as a collaboration with NISGUA in Guatemala, and also our our friends and who are doing incredible work at the AJR, La AJR in Guatemala also. The other group we're collaborating, which is a new group, is a new collective that was formed, SEBA, and then we'll have Evelyn and Josue tell us a little bit about that later. But thank you, everyone. At CRLN, we are these our new approach is to collaborate with folks who are doing incredible work and also doing similar work to us, and to continue to build on the social movement, but also on what's already happening, that we don't have to repeat, and we don't have to reinvent anything, because there's so much great work happening. So thank you everyone for being here. We do have interpretation, simultaneous interpretation. We'll have some folks speaking in Spanish, so the information is on the chat, but also you can choose the Spanish language when needed, or to listen to this in Spanish. So once again, welcome. I'm going to quickly introduce some of the folks, but when it's their turn to share, they will tell you a little bit more about them. This webinar is also going to be is being recorded, and we'll have that available on our website, but also share it on social media and different platforms. So, but yes, today we have with us Jose Silvio Tai Cusanero. We're very honored that Jose Silvio is here with us. He is the legal advisor to the Association for Justice and Reconciliation, AJR or AJR, La Asociación. Works with survivors and members of the war, of the genocides in Guatemala. The work is a combination of efforts looking for justice for the crimes against humanity and crimes committed against the people of Guatemala. He has also been a plaintiff on the Ixil case going on currently against Benedicto Lucas Garcia, and he's also served as a witness for the first genocide case against Rios Montt. So thank you, Don Jose Silvio, for joining us today. We look forward to hearing your thoughts. We also have Michelle Liang. She is currently working as an international accompanier with NISGUA in Guatemala. She works with the accompaniment project in the Ixil genocide case, and also part of the project of Partners in Defense of Life and Territory. Previously, she had worked as a policy manager, also work in advocacy and citizenship, and she also lived in Chicago. So we're glad that Michelle is here with us. She'll be telling us a bit about Niswa's work and also about international accompaniment. We also have Evelyn Cepeda. Evelyn is a research director and organizer who's been doing work in Chicago with many groups, specifically on intersectional work on social movements. She's from Guatemala, born in Jutiapa, and migrated to the US at the age of 4. And has worked with the Filipino organizations, but also now doing a lot of great work with the Central American and Latin American community. And she'll tell us a little bit about that later. Josue Sican is also from Guatemala, born in the US, and he is an organizer with dissenters. His work is also intersectional, but specifically about dismantling war and systems of war, and he can tell us more about that later. Both Evelyn and Josue traveled to Guatemala on the human rights delegation we had in July. And if we have some time, we can maybe have talk a little bit about that. Okay, thank you, everyone. Today's conversation is centered around what is currently happening in Guatemala with this very important high-profile genocide case. It is one of the cases that has brought high-profile military officials to justice, has brought people into the courtroom, has brought to evidence a lot of how crimes of war and crimes against humanity have been committed. And we are going to hear from Jose Silvio about where the case is and a little bit of the context. But I wanted to frame what we're going to hear today a little bit. So if we look at the war in Guatemala, and some of you are familiar with the war, what is referred to as the internal armed conflict, right? It's a period that ranged primarily between 1960 and 1995, with the insurgents leftist guerrilla, and it caused a lot of civil unrest, and a lot of the society was heavily affected in the sense of when we look at the context of war, and oftentimes this war is referred to as a civil war. I don't necessarily agree that we can call this a civil war, because we have the context of U.S. intervention and U.S. aid and other actors. But the way that the war affected society, it expands beyond the 36 years, right? Beyond 1960 and 1996, and so forced disappearances, massacres, and specifically targeting indigenous communities. In the late 90s, the Commission for Historical Clarification under Jose Gerardi attempted to document the majority of these crimes, and unfortunately, it led to a lot of the work that the repression for Juan Jose Gerardi. The current case, the Maya Ixil case, focuses on the period of Romeo Lucas Garcia, which was from 1978 and 1982. And it is really important to understand that Romeo Lucas Garcia happened before Rios Montt. Romeo Lucas Garcia was also involved with heavy forced disappearances, brutality, specifically against the Ixil people, and genocide. And so, it's important to understand how the different periods are connected, but also different, and how the majority of the people affected during the war were people from indigenous communities. I think I'll leave it at that. And I think the last thing I'll say about the trial is that, despite the incredible amount of research, and despite so many other trials that have been brought in forth against crimes against humanity, and how the trying of military officials is part of historic healing, the historic memory of the people of Guatemala. The trial itself has been plagued with interference and then attempts to derail the case by the defense, by the lawyers of Benedicto Lucas. And so I think the political context and the legal context, has allowed for that to happen, despite the fact that there is evidence and so much research has gone into that. So I'm gonna give some time to Don Jose Silvio now, so he can share with us about the context of the case and where we are in the case today, and why the case continues to be an important case, an important moment in the history of Guatemala. Thank you, Don Jose Silvio.
Jonathan, can I interrupt a little bit?
Oh, okay.
This is Mario Venegas, but I don't show there. I don't have video, and I can't see, I can listen everything, but I had no video. I don't know what happened with my Zoom, that I don't have video, but I am listening everything there. So that's I wanted to say that.
Okay. Okay. Okay,
Well,
thank you, Mario.
for the people that probably have the mute in the audio, you can tell them that I am Mario Venega, board member of CRLN.
Thank you, Mario. Mario, can you hear? But you can hear us, right, Mario?
No, I can hear everything, and
Okay.
obviously you can hear me too.
Yes.
But I don't know what happened with my video in the Zoom. I don't know what
Oh,
happened.
okay.
But I'm going to
Okay.
listen everything that you are saying there.
Thank you, Mario. Gracias, Mario. Okay. Bueno, don
Ya
José
listos.
Silvio. Gracias. Thank you.
Bueno, bueno, buenas tardes a los que nos acompañan. Es un gusto y un placer compartir con ustedes. Un saludo desde las víctimas y sobrevivientes del conflicto armado interno acá de Guatemala hasta donde pueden estar, y un fuerte abrazo. En esta ocasión, pues estamos, como bien ha hecho referencia Jonathan, la asociación tiene más de 25 años de lucha en especialmente sobre casos de justicia transicional. La asociación es compuesta por sobrevivientes del conflicto armado y tiene más o menos 160 asociados o membresía activa en el grupo. La asociación es querellante de cinco regiones. Estamos hablando de la región Huehuetenango, también hablamos de la región Ixcán, la región Ixil, en donde hay casos ahora abiertos, la región de Rabinal, donde también hay hechos y ya están algunos solventados, y la región de Chimaltenango. Precisamente en la región de Chimaltenango es en donde yo pues he crecido, y como tal soy sobreviviente también de ese genocidio, de esas masacres, de esas violaciones a los derechos humanos de esa región. Así que yo vengo de esa región. Guatemala, luego de los acuerdos de paz, pues da pie a que las víctimas tengan el derecho de esclarecer la verdad y tener justicia por las graves violaciones a los derechos humanos. La asociación o los sobrevivientes del conflicto armado interno buscan esta oportunidad de presentar sus casos, debido a que estos hechos que actualmente lo hablamos son crímenes de guerra y de lesa humanidad. De tal modo son de trascendencia internacional, de modo que los asociados y la asociación, a través de un apoyo jurídico, pues se determinó que es necesario a denunciar estos casos, y en un momento oportuno lograr esclarecer la verdad, tener la justicia y hacer memoria histórica para la no repetición. Entonces, por lo tanto, pues era necesario, ya que se dio los acuerdos de paz, pues era como una oportunidad y era un momento oportuno en donde la asociación logró aprovechar, ser querellantes y denunciar estos hechos. Dado que también la situación política en Guatemala en esas épocas pues también las permitían, debido a que había en el año 2000, más o menos, 98, 2000, 2005, había mucho acompañamiento internacional. Y ese acompañamiento internacional pues ayuda bastante, digamos, a las víctimas, a los sobrevivientes, para poder encaminar esta lucha. En este caso, la asociación pues ha avanzado en tener estos casos en tribunales. Pero también vale la pena mencionar de que desde ese entonces la lucha de los militares, la lucha de la gente que está vinculada como político, pero también como la gente digamos, que está en la Cámara del Agro, la Cámara del Comercio, o los que tienen el poder económico, pues están tratando de impedir desde ese día hasta la fecha, siguen impidiendo este tipo de casos. Resulta que había una querella especialmente que avanzó, es el caso de la región Ixil. ¿Por qué la región Ixil tiene dos razones o dos explicaciones? Una explicación es que la región Ixil había en esa época, en el 2000, más o menos 2005, había avanzado un poco más en la investigación. Y en el 2008, más o menos, un estudio que había hecho el monseñor Gerardi también ya surge. Entonces, esta información ayuda mucho para determinar qué regiones podríamos avanzar. En esa época, entonces, la asociación no podía, por dos razones, no podía llevar las cinco querellas, solo se lleva una, que es la de la región Ixil, especialmente la de San Juan Cotzal, Nevaj y Chajul. En este caso, pues, también se determinó dos temporalidades. La temporalidad del Romeo Lucas García y su equipo, y la temporalidad de Efraín Ríos Montt. Sin embargo, en una ocasión, el equipo que llevaba la investigación, y que es un periodo más corto, que es solamente de 1982 al 83, que es un año, entonces se logra como determinar un poco más rápido ese tipo de hechos. Y de tal modo que nos llevó a investigar, a llevar el caso en el 2012, 2013, y termina el 10 de mayo del 2013, termina el proceso en el tribunal, en donde la asociación logra una condena al general Ríos Montt por genocidio y por deberes de humanidad. En Guatemala se entiende que un tribunal puede determinar 6,000, 8,000, 10,000 años de cárcel. Sin embargo, la legislación guatemalteca solo hay 50 años de prisión. Sin embargo, le dieron 50 años por genocidio y 30 años por deberes de humanidad o de lesa humanidad. De eso entonces, el general, en eso entonces, Ríos Montt tuvo una condena de 80 años. Sin embargo, la sentencia abrió muchas ventanas de investigación, puesto que abrió el espacio de investigar a empresarios y también a políticos. Por otra parte, también abrió la oportunidad de investigar a grupos o personas que están vinculados o que apadrinaron esta lucha. Y en ese apadrinamiento aparece Estados Unidos e Israel. Hay una historia un poco grande en cómo Israel se vincula en estos años 80 con Estados Unidos y arma a Estados Unidos para la lucha en Guatemala. Obviamente Israel no llegó directamente a Guatemala, pero junto con Estados Unidos, pues también tuvieron que ver en el conflicto armado en Guatemala. Lamentablemente en el 2013, una semana después, la Corte de Constitucionalidad pues retrotrajo el fallo y no quiso que el general fuera condenado. Entonces anuló la sentencia. Al final de cuentas, la sentencia se anula solo de forma, porque solo querían quitar la sentencia o, digamos, el cargo que tenía el general Ríos Montt, no así como los hechos. Se queda firme que en Guatemala sí hubo genocidio, sí hubo desaparición forzada, sí hubo deberes contra la humanidad como delito. Sin embargo, fue absuelto, pues no fue absuelto el general, sin embargo, sí le quitaron como los cargos. Nosotros igual, como víctimas y sobrevivientes del conflicto en Guatemala, celebramos desde esa fecha hasta la hora, hasta el momento que el genocidio hubo en Guatemala, y pues es una victoria para Guatemala. Nos hicieron repetir el proceso, y esa repetición se dio en el 2018. El 2018 se vuelve a lograr una sentencia por genocidio. Sin embargo, fue absuelto el director de inteligencia, que está en ese entonces el general, que ahora es retirado del ejército, José Mauricio Rodríguez Sánchez. Fue absuelto porque no le, a pesar que hubo un voto de incidente en el, en, digamos, en tribunal, y ese voto de incidente, o ese voto que está, que en donde una jueza, que la juez yo determina que el general Rodríguez Sánchez sí está implicado y tenía mucho que ver en ese proceso. Entonces, el caso ahora está en proceso de casación. Estamos esperando ya pasamos el proceso de apelaciones, estamos en el proceso de casación, esperamos todavía finalizar un proceso aquí en Guatemala. En esto andamos, digamos, en el caso Ríos, que se divide en 3 etapas. Ahora mismo tenemos también bajo investigación en ese equipo a Luis Enrique Mendoza, es el G3. Debió empezar en junio, el 4 de junio de este año. Sin embargo, por el caso que se lleva en tribunal respecto al caso Lucas, pues se aplazó digamos, el inicio del debate oral público en la fase final en contra de Luis Enrique Mendoza para septiembre de 2025. Así que nosotros todavía tenemos abierto este expediente, y va a continuar el debate oral público para la fase final contra Luis Enrique Mendoza, que es el jefe de operaciones. En el caso Lucas, en el 2008 empezó la investigación, fue la fase intermedia como el 2018-2019, más o menos, 2020 termina. Ligan a proceso a 3 personas. Está el general retirado Benedicto Lucas García, jefe de Estado Mayor del Ejército. Está también Manuel Antonio Callejas y Callejas, director de inteligencia, y está Octavio Noguera. Los 3 fueron ligados a proceso para la etapa final. En el 25 de abril de este año empieza el debate oral y público para la fase final. Sin embargo, en esta oportunidad, Octavio Noguera ha ya fallecido, que es el director de operaciones, murió en la pandemia, el caso se cierra. Manuel Antonio Callejas y Callejas tiene un serio problema mental que ya no es posible apersonarse o llevar este juicio. También entonces se separa del caso. Solo está ahorita en tribunales, es el Benedicto Lucas García, que es el jefe de Estado Mayor. Él sí está en condiciones y por lo tanto el juicio está programado. Bueno, se alargó bastante, nosotros creíamos 3 meses lo que está programado, la audiencia. Sin embargo, ya llevamos alrededor de 7 meses, casi 90 días de audiencias, y estamos esperando que para la semana del 4 al 8 se dan las conclusiones, y si el 8 no se dan la sentencia, digamos, posiblemente la sentencia lo estamos del tribunal, lo estamos teniendo el 11 o el 12 de noviembre. Entonces, los queremos invitar para que sigan la página, o pueden tener información a través de NISWA. También creo que pueden tener estos datos a través de Jonathan, que hay 2 o 3 páginas virtuales que están disponibles. Está la Federación de Escuelas Radiofónicas FEJER, es la que es el canal oficial a través del Facebook. Está Verdad y Justicia, que también lo transmite, Verdad y Justicia Guatemala, a través del Facebook, y la página de AJR también lo retransmite. Hay ocasiones que lo que tenemos las posibilidades, se transmite. Entonces, esa es la lucha que tenemos ahora, digamos, como en el caso abierto ahora y que se va a cerrar. Sin embargo, el caso Chimaltenango, el caso Cachiquel, el genocidio Cachiquel está ahorita en una primera etapa, está en la fase de investigaciones. Tenemos audiencias en el tribunal, el 4, 5 y 6 para anticipos de prueba. Nos da la posibilidad, digamos, el sistema guatemalteco en la primera etapa, resguardar los testimonios de las personas que ya están, digamos, muy de avanzada edad o con problemas de salud. Y eso pues estamos tratando ahorita. Parte de la investigación es determinar a los testigos, determinar a las testigas, su estado de salud y pues comparecer en el tribunal para resguardar su testimonio, que es los anticipos de prueba. Más o menos llevamos alrededor de 36 anticipos de prueba y tenemos un promedio de 180 testigos de 58 casos colectivos que está bajo investigación. Es lo que hacemos como asociación, eso es lo que hacemos actualmente en materia de derechos humanos, pero también principalmente en el tema de justicia de transición. Entonces les agradezco por escuchar, pues ahí estoy al pendiente para responder si hay alguna duda.
Muchas gracias, don José Silvio. Sí, fue un poquito rápido todo lo que usted dijo, pero le agradecemos. Tenemos un poquito más de tiempo, yo pienso, para que usted nos comparta, por ejemplo, usted mencionó el caso de Ríos Montt, el caso que está pendiente de Luis Enrique Mendoza, ¿verdad? And I'm sorry, I'm going to switch to English. It's hard. And so there's several trials that have been connected to the current Maya Ixil trial. And Jose Silvio mentioned, Luis Enrique Mendoza was the chief of operations of the military, and how the current case had three military officials, one of them who died, another one who's declared mentally ill and not able to stand trial, and Lucas Garcia, who is, in a military hospital very comfortably, is the one who's on trial right now. But, there's several cases that are very much connected as to why we're able to see this process move forward. And I think it's important to maybe go back a little bit, and I want to ask Jose Silvio to help us understand how these trials with the research and the testimonies, especially the testimonies and the work that the AJR has been doing, have made it possible for both the international community, but also the people in Guatemala to have access to a type of justice, right? Whether we can say is Western justice or through the legal system, but is one of the ways we have reparations. So I wanted to ask Don Jose Silvio to talk a little bit about these connections of how these trials, but specifically about the testimonies. Thank you, Don Jose Silvio.
Gracias, Jonathan, por permitir ampliar un poquito el tema, debido a que estamos, nosotros igual hemos aprendido a resumir el caso por los tiempos de las personas y tratamos de hacer lo más corto posible, pero pues sí, con una breve conexión. Vean, en el 2013, cuando se sentencia al general Ríos Montt, la gente, o sea, no solo los asociados de la asociación, sino que todas las personas que sufrieron esos crueles tratos y de violaciones a los derechos humanos se pusieron muy contentos, debido a un aspecto muy significativo para ellos, y es lo que posiblemente en esta ocasión no va a poder darse. Sin embargo, estamos trabajando para que esto no se dé. Y les cuento lo siguiente. Para la condena del general Ríos Montt, él como persona estaba presente en el debate y estaba presente, digamos, cuando se dio la sentencia, físicamente. Y cuando lograron la sentencia, pues obviamente es lo que sucede en los tribunales, ¿verdad? En donde ponen la chacha a las personas, pues los amarran y los encadenan y los llevan presos. Esa acción simbólica, eso le puso muy contenta a la gente porque al final dos cosas pasó. Uno es que deducieron responsabilidad y por otro lado le dieron una condena y lo llevaron amarrado, digamos, lo llevaron preso y eso lo puso muy contento a la gente. O sea, no le puso mucha atención, digamos, a que cuántos años, a los delitos que hayan hecho, sino que más bien le puso atención a que a él lo llevaran amarrado. Ya hay mucha gente que es Ixil, mucha gente que era cachiquel, mucha gente que era Rabinalachi, que son mayas hablantes, no entienden mucho el castellano, pero al ver que la persona está amarrada para los sobrevivientes y los testigos, fue una gran victoria. Lo contrario que pasó en el 2018 cuando absolvieron al G2, que es José Mauricio Sánchez, la gente se puso muy frustrada, digamos, se puso muy frustrada porque no lograron, bueno, la condena fue absolutoria, solo dijeron sí, entendemos que hubo genocidio, vamos a dejar escrito que en Guatemala se cometió genocidio, que en Guatemala se dieron crímenes de guerra, delitos de lesa humanidad, desaparición forzada, pero no lo encontramos al culpable. Entonces, esa actitud, digamos, esa acción, sí le puso muy triste a la gente, aunque hubiese una condena, pero digamos, no le pone muy contento. En el caso Lucas puede puede pasar lo mismo, digamos, en el sentido que él no comparece personalmente en el tribunal, él está en el hospital militar, entendiendo que tiene problemas de salud, pero nosotros no lo vemos de esa manera, más bien es una estrategia de la defensa técnica y es una estrategia militar para que él no comparezca a la sala de audiencia. También no sabríamos cómo podría ser, digamos, la actitud digamos, del tribunal o la actitud porque él como persona, el general Lucas García tiene una condena, está condenado por la desaparición de Molina Tensi, está detenido por el caso Juicio Ixil, también está detenido por el caso Creompás. Él era el director de la zona militar número 21 de Cobán a Verapaz, en donde en el sitio de la zona militar se ha exhumado 552 osamentas, que personas que fueron detenidas, desaparecidas y fueron enterrados en fosas clandestinas digamos, del destacamento militar número 21, que es la zona militar de Alta Verapaz Cobán. Entonces él está detenido. Entonces, si en esta ocasión van a dictar sentencia y si fuera, nosotros esperamos que fuese una sentencia, digamos, condenatoria por la cantidad de, 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 de de pruebas que hay. Tenemos pruebas militares, tenemos pruebas balísticas, tenemos pruebas antropológicas, presentamos pruebas hemerográficas, presentamos pruebas de documentos desclasificados por Estados Unidos, 34 hechos de masacre, 32 hechos de destrucción de casas, de robo de bienes, de desaparición digamos, también de materiales de las familias. Hay 30 mujeres violentadas sexualmente, se presentaron en el tribunal para contar su historia, cómo fueron maltratados en esa época, y hay más o menos 34 desapariciones forzadas en su época. Entonces también los peritajes militares también dan su testimonio y él como jefe del Estado Mayor del Ejército es la persona quien determina y quien decide y es el primer mando para los demás, en la cadena de mando. Entonces él sí tiene, digamos, una implicación grande digamos, en el genocidio, en las desapariciones, en todo lo que ocurrió durante, digamos, en 1978 al 82, marzo del 82. Sin embargo, por estar recluido en un hospital militar, por estar detenido y ya está, tiene condena, pues no creemos nosotros que llegue la policía o que llegue alguien, lo pueda amarrar, lo pueda llevar. Ese tipo de acciones es un poco lo que nosotros vemos, no sabemos con exactitud qué va a pasar. Y eso puede, bueno, una cosa, si nos dan digamos, una condena o una sentencia condenatoria, pues la gente de algún modo se va a poner como contenta, aunque no la lleven. Pero si va a ser absolutoria, va a ser muy triste para la gente, muy triste para la gente. Entonces, y aunque en la historia de Guatemala, aunque parte de la memoria, nosotros seguro estamos que va en esa época o en ese periodo también se cometieron esos delitos de crímenes de guerra, de lesa humanidad y genocidio por la gravedad y porque desaparecieron comunidades, familias, líderes comunitarios entonces sí hay una intencionalidad, sí hay una intencionalidad. Sin embargo, pues nosotros también por otro lado hemos visto que el tribunal ha sido muy imparcial, ha sido muy imparcial y pues no creemos que se sume al juego de la corrupción y al juego de la impunidad. Aunque la defensa técnica y el acusado pues están jugando con una estrategia muy maliciosa que pues nos han hecho estar hasta ahorita 8 meses en tribunal y están tratando de alargarlo, pues, sin embargo, creo que el tribunal ya no les permite o ya no les permitió andar en este juego. Entonces, es decir, la conexión entre la gente de la comunidad el Estado de Derecho, pero también como los militares estamos ahorita como en un juego. Yo recientemente regresé de una gira en Europa, también justamente haciendo este trabajo, dando a conocer y que la comunidad internacional, principalmente la comunidad europea, como organizaciones de derechos humanos, abogados que defienden los derechos humanos, universidades, parlamentarios, la misma Relaciones Exteriores de la Unión Europea, pues fuimos a ver y decirles que dos cositas. Uno es que le den seguimiento a estos casos, ya que les fuimos a contar, y segundo, que hagan visible desde donde ellos pueden o a su círculo que está y de alguna manera, de esta manera, hacen una presión política hacia Guatemala para que estos casos, por un lado, se evidencie, por otro lado, también se quede en la memoria y de esa cuenta nosotros podemos hacer una mejor memoria histórica, porque nosotros creemos que teniendo la verdad, teniendo justicia, podemos hacer con más fuerza la memoria histórica para la no repetición.
Muchas gracias. Esas últimas palabras me llenan mucho de emoción, don José Silvio, porque la memoria histórica es una gran parte de la lucha que ustedes han hecho, ¿no? De mantener una educación, mantener un trabajo hacia la justicia para que se conozca, para que no se olvide y nunca se repita. Muchas gracias, don José Silvio. Um, Thank you, Don Jose Silvio, for your words. The last part you said is specifically emotional and important to me because, you know, the concept of education and knowing the history, knowing the history for the work and the purpose of bringing justice for the people of Guatemala is crucial, so things like these never happen again. So we're gonna have some time a little bit in a few minutes for questions. So think of if you have questions or comments, we'll be taking them in the chat. I wanted to give some time to Michelle right now, so she can tell us a little bit about the work that she's doing with NISGWA, a little bit more about what NISGWA does and what it's been doing for decades in Guatemala and how it relates to specifically to the work of the Maya Ixil genocide trial and the accompaniment. So thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yes, thank you so much for this space, and it's good to see everyone. My name is Michelle. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a current international accompanier with NISGWA, so I am in Guatemala right now. I'll start with talking about how NISGWA has been accompanying this case, and especially our role as people outside of Guatemala, or I think people in the United States, and what our role and responsibility is. And then I'll dive more into some of the more general work and history of Nisqua. So, yes. So under ex-General Manuel Benedicto Lucas Garcia, the Mayan peoples of the country were identified as enemies of the state. Military sweeping operations in Santa Maria Nebach, San Juan Cotzal, and San Gaspar Chahul killed over 1,700 Maya Ixil people in more than 32 massacres, destroyed over 23 entire villages, perpetuated forced disappearance and sexual violence against thousands of people, and subjected the population to conditions of hunger and disease that caused the death of thousands more. As Jose Silvio said, over the last 6 months, 76 survivors of Ixil genocide and 43 experts, including forensic anthropologists, social anthropologists, military experts, international experts on forced displacement and the environment, and others have brought forward indisputable evidence of ex-General Lucas Garcia's role in the genocide of the Maya people between 1978 and 1982. And it's important for us to remember that the United States and Israel made the genocide possible. Released military documents and experts have testified to the role of the United States in providing training to the Guatemalan police and military, promoting this internal enemy doctrine, and sharing techniques for torture, forced disappearance, and counterinsurgency. The Model Aldea, which is a strategy to remodel a dispersed community to concentrate all the buildings, houses, and people in one place so they're easier to control and to kill, was started first in Guatemala and then transported later to Palestine. So there's a direct link between the genocide in Guatemala and the genocide that's happening now in Palestine. Nisqua, we've been accompanying the case since the beginning, so which means showing up to the trial to hear witnesses tell their stories, going to Nebach, which is where witnesses who were unable to travel to the capital due to health issues or elderly age, told their stories before a judge in Nebach, which was then video transmitted to the capital. And several witnesses have passed away since the beginning of the case. So as this case is stretching on for longer and longer, and with already 40 years that in which witnesses have been awaiting justice, the time is really of the essence. Since the beginning of the trial, the defense of ex-General Lucas Garcia has continued to make attempts to delay or suspend the case and avoid justice. And given these attempts by the defense to avoid accountability for the genocide of the Maya Ixil people, this is part of the reason why international solidarity and the international eye is really important. This is a historic moment for the Maya Ixil people of Guatemala who have been waiting more than 40 years for justice and have been accumulating evidence, as Jose Silvio said, for around 20 years now. And as US communities and organizations, it's our responsibility to take accountability for the role of our governments in enabling the genocide that happened in Guatemala. So that's some of the work that we do directly with the case, but I'll kind of zoom out now and go into more of the history of Nisqua and what is international accompaniment and what that sort of entails. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. All right, so Nisqua started in 1981. Working in, especially in areas of communications to the US public. And how this really started was that in the 1990s, as after inter-armed conflict, members, people who had fled Guatemala were returning. So there's one community in particular that we accompany who is a community of returnees and returned to Guatemala and formed their own almost autonomous community where the indigenous authorities there create the norms of the communities and are able to even at several points in history stop the police or military from entering forcibly entering their community. So in the 1990s, members of the international community established this type of strategic international accompaniment, putting their bodies on the line to protect or because of this really messed up idea of how different bodies are weighed differently in the eyes of in international eyes. So some of the key questions were, how were they going to recuperate the ancestral territories that were taken during the conflict? How was it possible to guarantee the security of families after their return? So these were some of the key questions at the time. And as Jonathan said earlier, the Acuerdo de Paz was signed in 1992. And since then, since the first accompaniment of Nisqua, international accompaniment has kind of broadened in the toolbox that is used. So currently some of the tools in the toolbox are continued physical accompaniment, which is a lot of how accompaniment first started. Also communications in Spanish and English to share and uplift the work of our partners. Advocacy with US authorities. So one of our asks for this case, around this case, is for organizations to sign a letter to the US Embassy for them to show their solidarity with the case, and campaigns with our base in the US. So Nisqua currently accompanies 7 partners in different territories in Guatemala, in Huehuetenango and Alta Verapaz, and in the Ixil region, the Quiché region, and other territories. And the main focuses of work are first, justice and accountability, and historical memory, and also defense of life and territory against international foreign businesses from the global north who are trying to take resources from Guatemala and harming communities in the process, especially mines, hydroelectric dams, etc. And it's really important to note that the framework that we currently work in is a framework of international solidarity. So there's different ideas of human rights, of how a company can look, but how we really want to frame our work is through international solidarity, which means an awareness of global structures of oppression that includes awareness of the responsibility of the United States in state violence and capitalism against the people of Guatemala, for example, with the Ixil genocide case, and also with these foreign mega projects who are coming in to take land and take water from communities without consulting communities or completely ignoring community consultations, in which nearly 100% of the population has voted that they don't want the mine, but the mine comes in anyways. And also an intention to leverage the power dynamics to subvert existing structures of oppression. So being aware and acknowledging that a power dynamic exists, but using that to subvert existing structures of oppression by amplification or by shining a spotlight on the work that our partners are doing in Guatemala, and all of that following the leadership of impacted communities because they know the struggle the best. And then finally, the awareness that our luchas are connected. So the struggle to protect life and territory in Guatemala is connected to the fight of indigenous communities, of people of color in the United States. And the luchas are not the same. And because we are impacted differently by these structures of oppression, but they are overarching structures of oppression that affect all of us. And it's our responsibility to recognize the interconnectedness of this and work together to try to dismantle these structures. So some of the work of Nisqua and some of the ways that we've been accompanying the case. And yeah, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them at the end. Thank you.
No, thank you, Michelle. There is a lot of a great conversation we can have about the work that Nizwa is doing and has done for decades. You know, it's 40 years. I'm right that Nizwa has been, working in Guatemala. So thank you again. I think what stood out to me is intersectionality, like the connected resistance, not necessarily the same, but being affected by structures of oppression. And so thank you for that reminder, Michelle. Um, Michelle is going to talk to us in a few minutes about what we can all do to take action in terms of supporting the people of Guatemala. So we'll hear a little bit more from Michelle in a few minutes. I want to give Evelyn some time right now to share with us a bit about how she came to this work in support of the Maya Ixil communities and how it connects to her personally as someone from Guatemala, from the diaspora, living in the United States. So welcome, Evelyn, and thank you for being with us.
Yeah. Hey, Jonathan. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Like Jonathan said, my name is Evelyn Cepeda. I live in Chicago, but I was born in Guatemala. My dad is from Santa Rosa, and my mom is from Jutiapa, and I was also born in Jutiapa. For me, the importance of going back to Guatemala in a political sense was something that I've been wanting to do for a very long time. My dad came here in 1985 at the height of the internal armed conflict. And at that time, and this is new and newer information that my dad has shared, because as Michelle has kind of mentioned, all of these history does have like a real life impact on people, right? And so my dad at the time in the 80s was a young man, a young boy. And he shared with us that he was almost kidnapped twice by the military in the place where he lived in Santa Rosa, to then go and be trained and commit some of these atrocities. He thankfully was not kidnapped. He was able to escape, and because due to that violence, that obviously traumatic instances, he decided to move to the U.S. in 1985. And so, eventually he came to Chicago, and after a few years was able to get residency and was able to move, go and live and visit Guatemala for a little bit. And that's how he met my mom, and I was born in Guatemala with my little brother. Fast forward, my dad was able to kind of get papers for us, and so we were able to move to Chicago when I was 4 years old. As Jonathan mentioned, however, it is a question of one, like being a Guatemalan migrant or diaspora, kind of knowing that our countries have come from kind of some of these really devastating crises, both politically, economically, due to imperialism, due to military dictatorships and puppet governments that the U.S. has installed in order to keep control of those areas, and kind of getting to know some of that history with other places first, and then being a little bit more curious about what has happened in Guatemala and in Central America. And during my time in high school and college, kind of diving into that a little bit more. However, I didn't know like that there were active, like I just didn't know how to get connected to various resistance movements that are happening, because they continue to happen, are happening today, and will continue as long as injustice is present, as long as the U.S. is present through, whether that's physically present through military soldiers or military dictatorships or not, just kind of influencing local like political powers that may be, whether that's the president or militarily intervening through Guatemala's military for the interests of U.S. corporations. We see those very real effects on people like myself, like my dad, who have to migrate in order to seek for a better life, because they are being displaced from their homelands. Corporations are actively trying to take over lands in order to extract raw materials, in order to extract other resources and cash crops and things like that. And we do see active resistance in various areas. And so for me, just finding like organizations such as Nisqua and getting connected with Jonathan was really, really strong and really powerful, and let me kind of, yeah, be reconnected as a diaspora, like knowing some of these things happened in the past, but um kind of getting connected to the active resistance movements that are happening now was very, very important to me. And so going back to Guatemala last year, one encuentro that Nisqua had was just an absolutely amazing experience to kind of get to hear from the various regions of Guatemala and the various places that were resisting against mining companies, et cetera, that are internationally owned. And then so that was kind of the introduction for me to like Guatemala's kind of resistance movements. And I see our role as diaspora and as migrants to be kind of one and the same. You know, we are forced to migrate, and then lots of our families here are forced into, especially if they come undocumented, are forced into really terrible working conditions. You know, things that are affecting our livelihoods and our rights here in the U.S. Are things that are not new and stem from these projects that the U.S. has within our countries back home. And so it was really important for me to kind of, you know, find other Central Americans. I don't know if you guys know Chicago, it is very Mexican. There's a lot of Mexican people here, and I grew up in a very Mexican neighborhood. So what I mean by find Central Americans is just get connected with more Central Americans in general within here in Chicago. And so slowly over a couple of years, I was kind of able to do that. And then I met Jonathan, which you guys know his history, and he's done so much work in human rights living in Guatemala. And you know, we kind of decided that it would be really important. We had this opportunity with the case, the Ixil genocide case happening, that we thought would be a really good opportunity to both introduce some of these historical, like kind of like having presenting a little more context for some of these like really devastating historic events that happened not that long ago in the 70s and 80s and 90s, but also be able to be an active part of that history through listening through the testimonies of the community, the Maisha elders. We specifically we were sitting in the courtroom, kind of, you know, taking notes and listening to the testimonies. We were able to hear from an anthropologist, Dr. Paloma Soria Montañez, who kind of discussed how the sexual violence against women was enacted specifically, the evidence for that, and how it's an act of war and a war crime. And according to her findings, there's estimates of around 88.7% of women in the Maisha population suffering from systematic sexual violence through the Guatemalan military. And so I bring that up because it's not it's not an easy thing to kind of listen. It's such a it's not personal because I didn't go through those things, but I do know that, like, for these reasons, our communities have been forced to migrate and displaced from their areas, whether that's within the country itself or outside of that, outside of Guatemala, and coming to the U.S., etc., only to be met with more oppression, violations of their rights in the workplace, etc. here. And so, to me, the struggles that Central Americans, Guatemalans go through here in the U.S. is very interconnected to the reasons why they weren't able to stay in their countries in the first place, in their countries of origin. And so that's why we started the project, my Ixil accompaniment project, and the goal was to really bring diaspora and Guatemalans to Guatemala to learn some of this history that Michelle and Jose Silvio have expressed already, because there's already so much misinformation even within Guatemala itself, not even mentioning once you leave and you're a little bit removed from Guatemala. So really making it very clear the historical um, yeah, making it very clear, like the historical reasons for this happening, how the U.S. and imperialism is are the reasons for it, and making those connections, as well as obviously providing some it's not all doom and gloom, right? Like there's active resistance movements. And so for me, it was really important to provide some of that hope that there are ways for us to get connected, you know, not just like fumbling around in the US, kind of not knowing what to do, you know, and maybe getting depressed or anxious or whatever. Maybe we see some information through our phones, but we don't know how to actually do something about it. And so for me, like bringing Central Americans, Guatemaltecos specifically, to Guatemala, getting a chance to sit in on this case, getting to hear the testimonies, connect with our elders, and hear about their experiences both that were tragic, but also ones of stories of resistance, was really the goal for this delegation that we did back in July. And out of that, we were able to form a collective called SEIBA, Central Americans en Batalla Antiimperialista, where our goal is to just further that. You know, obviously we have our brothers and sisters in El Salvador and Honduras, Nicaragua, all throughout Central America. We have a pretty shared history of U.S. intervention, colonialism, etc. Our histories are so intertwined and our struggles are so intertwined. And yeah, we're just a small collective starting out now, and hopefully there will be more delegations in the future to Guatemala, to El Salvador, etc. To kind of further these struggles, to get connected, and to support in however way we can from the U.S. and get organized from the U.S. So yeah, that's pretty much it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. Yeah, I'll add that the delegation that came out, the project to visit Guatemala was a small group of folks, but only from folks from the diaspora, people from Guatemala. And that was a very unique moment, because I think these roots trips happen a lot of the times in a cultural context. You know, folks return to the place of their ancestors, or the place where they were born, or their parents. But I think what stood out about the delegation, and what Evelyn and I were really focused on, is to give this, of course, we wanted to eat food and we wanted to look at the beauty of Guatemala, but we wanted to make sure that we had a political, social, cultural education within the context of resistance. And I think that's the going to Guatemala to sit in the trial, to sit with Jose Silvio, sit with the folks from Nizwa, listen to the testimonies, and to witness and to accompany. I think this would make that delegation very different. So thank you again for your thoughts, Evelyn. I wanted to give Josue some time as well. He went on the delegation as well with us, and Josue has got we've only gotten to know each other the last few months. Josue is a community organizer as well, and he has also his own connection to this work of human rights. But Josue, please share with us a little bit about your experience on the delegation, and also some of how you are connecting social movement work with the work of Guatemala.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, and thank you everyone for being here. Yeah, my name is Josue. Like Jonathan said, I joined the MIA project, the company project, and also Colectivo Seiba. And I am also an organizer with dissenters. And the thing that all of these have in common is looking at empire. And oftentimes when you think of an empire, you think of hundreds or thousands of years ago. We think of imperialism as something that is of the past. But we can make see that this pattern continues, right? For Guatemala, where we first start thinking about the armed conflict, and Jonathan made the point of being like, it's not a civil war, it's an armed conflict. And the reason this distinction is made is because there was outside intervention, right, from the part of the United States at that time for the United Fruit Company and the Dulles brothers who had a stake in part ownership of the company, were also at the time Secretary of State and the head of the CIA. So the US gets its hands dirty, and this leads to the overthrow of the first sets of democratically elected presidents. We go down the line and coming to something that Michelle mentioned, which was how it was then the US and Israel who provided the arms that allowed the armed conflict of the 70s and 80s to continue to happen between the Guatemalan military and mainly indigenous communities and rebel fighters. Once again, it's these imperialist countries fueling the mass killings that people experience. It is a pattern of imperialism, right? And so it's important for me now to have gone back to Guatemala, being on the opposite side of the experience, right? Bearing the privileges that come from this extractive nature of imperialism. It does feel like a duty to um, do what I can to push back against that. And it was such a privilege to then go to Guatemala and speak and meet with survivors, to understand their needs, to understand the needs of community organizers over there, and connected to the work that I am doing here with an organization called Dissenters, which takes anti-imperialism and anti-militarist practices at their core. And we really look towards private weapons profiteers, right? The companies that make the weapons that are across the country continue to stoke the fire, right? Currently, it might not be Guatemala, but we see this happening with the ongoing genocide in Palestine. We see it happening economically with the ongoing blockade of Cuba and how it is just still continues to exhibit these imperialist practices. And so this vein of anti-imperialism is what drew me to then also want to build with Colectiva Ceiba, to then bring in the diaspora, right? We are a specific group of people that, for many reasons, all oftentimes tied to this country of the US. For me, it's my mom telling me about her grandma, remembering when the rebel base in Zacapa was bombed by U-2 bombers, US U-2 bombers that were disguised as Guatemalan air traffic. And also the economic outcomes that push people to have to leave, in essence, following the economic footprint of like extractive capitalism, and ending up, in the belly of the beast. And so, it was just a very special moment, and I'm excited to continue to build, with the folks at Nizwa, AJR, AJR, and so many other local collectives in Guatemala, so that together we can push back against this ongoing empire that has its tentacles across the world. But thank y'all.
Thank you, Josue. Yes, I think where Nizwa, CRLN, AJR, and a lot of us, find the common ground, even though, we're right now, some of us are in the United States, in Chicago, and some of us are in Guatemala, is the understanding that by learning our history, by learning the history, not just of Guatemala, but of Latin America and the history of resistance, right? And this critical education can allow us to heal, but also understand our parents, understand the history of Guatemala, understand how these crimes against humanity and genocide happened, but are also happening in other places like Palestine, right? And these actors that perpetuated and allowed the genocide to happen in Guatemala are very much the same actors that are allowing these crimes against humanity to happen elsewhere, right? In Palestine. So thank you for that reminder, Josue. I wanted to ask Michelle once again, and we're almost at our end. And if folks have some questions, please put them in the chat. I wanted to ask Michelle to share with us something that we do all the time at CRLN also, and we want to give people an opportunity to do something in connection to resistance and support and solidarity. Michelle talked about solidarity, and that to me, that's how we define human rights support, human rights work at CRLN, solidarity. So Michelle, you have a couple things for us.
Jonathan, can I interrupt? Because I would like to say something on behalf of the board of CRLN.
Yes, Mario. We're gonna have some time at the end for
but I cannot put
comments.
it in the chat. That's why I'm asking when and I can do it. It's just
we'll let Michelle talk.
Part of international solidarity, what I've been doing with Guatemala for many years. So that's what I wanted to let the people from Guatemala know about that. But anyway, we can talk. I can talk later.
Yeah, we'll have some time, Mario. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. I'll come back to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle?
Yeah, so there's a few things you can do. I'll ask Saraswati to put the links in the chat as I say them. But first of all, the simplest one is we're asking individuals to send a message of solidarity. It can be a note, a piece of art, or a video to AHOTR, to witnesses and survivors to express your solidarity as the end of the case approaches and a sentencing hearing approaches. So to do that, you can send your message of solidarity to info@nisqua.org. And our plan hopefully is to print all of these out as well, and to have them on physical display at the Sierra, the end of the case, and the day of the sentencing, so that because there's going to be over 100 people who are traveling in especially from the Ixil region, and also las mujeres, the women, the Ixil women. So we want to be able to welcome them with messages, international messages of solidarity. So that's the first one. The second thing is we're asking for organizations to sign a letter urging the U.S. Embassy to, one, attend the trial's close, also to issue a public statement in support of the AHOTR and the survivors who are bringing forward the case against Manuel Benedicto Lucas Garcia. And then third, to denounce any the existing and any future attempts by the defense to delay the case and continue to avoid justice. And to do that, we have a sign-up form. So if you're part of an organization, it would be really great if you could try to sign your organization on to this letter. And this is a letter that's coming from international organizations, especially organizations in the US, urging the US to take this moment as a moment to stand on the right side of history, and show their unequivocal support for the survivors, given their role in the past in enabling the genocide. And the last thing is to share political art and educational materials. So you can DM or email us for resources, and especially if you feel comfortable putting up art, around your community. That is something that would be really powerful as an act of solidarity and an act of protest. And if you end up doing that, if you're able to take a picture of that and send it to us as well. So for more information, you can DM or email us. We have resources to help you to be able to do that.
Thank you, Michelle. and so we are coming to the end. Nizwa will send that out in and probably share that with us, and we'll share that with us, and we'll also forward that information. So thank you for that, Michelle. Um, we wanted to give some time for any comments or questions people had, and I know Mario wanted to say something. Mario is a great tío abuelo from Chicago, who is part of the board of CRLN, and we are very glad that you're here today, Mario. Thank you.
And hello, everyone. Thank you for all the speakers. It has been a great, great, great meeting. All the ones that have been talking about here, in Guatemala, the advocate for human rights, and also Evelyn here. Has been a great, great piece of information, education, and research that they have been doing, which is great to hear because I've been active with human rights in Guatemala for about, I don't know, more than 20 years and almost 30 years since I came here to the United States. But the first time I found problems in Guatemala when I was expelled from Chile after 2.5 years in concentration camp by the dictatorship, Pinochet dictatorship there, military dictatorship. And I was expelled from the country. I couldn't live in the country. So I went to England, where they received me at that time. And the first thing I found there in England was something like Casa Guatemala, which was an organization there in London supporting what was going on in Guatemala. So when I left England and I came here to the United States, the first thing that I did here in Chicago was contact people from Guatemala. And I found Casa Guatemala at that time, which is a great history that we have with that organization until even we found there a Foundation for Human Rights in Guatemala. From Casa Guatemala was a program that we have there too for many years until the achievement, the accord of the war came to Guatemala. And I went right away there, I joined CRLN, where I've been there since all those 20 years almost. And very briefly, I just want to say thank you to all of you guys for all what you have been doing and on behalf of the board of CRLN. And at the same time, tell you that we continue working. We will continue working from CRLN on all the programs that we have for human rights, specifically for one Central America, and now also in Colombia, all things that are happening still with the new government, and in Honduras too. We are supporting that in general in Latin America. And at the same time, I would like to tell you that we also have been participating a lot with the Center for Justice and Accountability here in United States, in California, who has been doing a lot of work there with the people that they have been brought on trial here to Guatemala, from El Salvador, from other Central American countries, and even from Chile also. So I would like to tell you that we will continue with that work. And of course, I mean, we can, the organizations there in Guatemala or here in United States, in solidarity with Guatemala, probably are will be with the Center for Justice and Accountability, has been a lot of work that we continue supporting them too. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you very much for all this big program that we have had today. And well, we will continue. La lucha siempre sigue.
Gracias, Mario. Thank you, Mario. I don't see any messages in the chat. I don't know if anybody else had any thoughts, but if we don't, once again, thank you to everyone here. Thank you to Evelyn, Josue, Don Jose Silvio, Michelle, and also Lupe and Anabel, our interpreter, everyone who helped make this possible. I want to end with just a final short reflection in terms of why it's important to pay attention to the genocide case in Guatemala today. We're watching a genocide happen in real time today in Palestine. We're watching a genocide being broadcast against indigenous people of a region. And this is a conversation I've had a lot of times with the people, with friends and family and people who are in human rights and immigrant rights. And for us, for a lot of us who are from Guatemala, it's really impossible to stay silent when something so impactful, so incredible is happening. And as we've learned the history of Guatemala, as we know, as Michelle, Don Jose Silvio, many people have mentioned, it was the United States who paid for the bombs that killed people in Guatemala in the genocide. It was the United States who paid, for those trainings in the jungles in Guatemala that killed so many people. It was Israel who brought weapons when the United States was in there under a lot of pressure. And it's happening again. And so the resistance that we see still today from the people of Guatemala demanding justice, not just at the national level in Guatemala, but at the international level. It's important to pay attention to that. It's important to understand the intersection that happens of around imperialism and neoliberalism. It's as we those that live in the United States, I believe we have a responsibility assigned to us because of the money, because of our ability to live in this country. And so I thank everyone who's doing this work, like Jose Silvio, Michelle, Nizwa, all of the solidarity, because it's another reminder of why we need to speak up against crimes against humanity. And what's happening in Palestine is directly connected to what happened to Guatemala. So thank you to everyone. We are going to share this recording with on social media and also through email. And once again, thank you for being with us, and we hope to do something like this soon. Again, thank you, and have a good rest. Have a great weekend. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Gracias.
Adiós.
Feliz
Gracias.
tarde.
Hasta luego.
Gracias,
Feliz tarde.
Jonathan.
Gracias, don José
Gracias, don
Silvio.
José Silvio.
Bueno, pilas para noviembre.
Sí, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Bueno, hasta pronto.
Hasta
Bueno.
pronto.
De pronto a todos.